Hello, everyone. Welcome to Trailblazin with Tara Misu, the podcast where we try to put the fun back in cannabis while sharing a little insider wisdom and chatting with some amazing guests. Today, I have from Cryo Cure President Greg Baughman and CEO Tracee McAfee. So Cryo Cure is really cool. It's a patent pending technology to skip the hanging phase of drying. So instead, the system cures the cannabis through freeze drying in as little as 24 hours. The resulting product is lighter, fluffier, aromatic. You get your terpene and trichome preservation, and the flavor profile is locked in at the height of freshness. So it's a pretty cool technique. Really excited to have him on the podcast today. Guys, welcome very much for Blazin, Tracee and Greg. Hey, guys.
Tara, I think, Tara, you need to come work for us. I think you get it, like more than sometimes I do. That was a great introduction.
That was definitely like the best explanation ahead of an interview ever.
Yeah.
Okay, see you guys later.
Yeah.
Tara just did our job for us.
Yeah, no, I'd like to think I know a thing or two about cannabis, and I like to talk. It's one of my stronger points. Don't make me write anything for the website. Cool. So I first heard about you guys. I was at an event in Jersey, and Stu, a mutual friend of ours, came up to me with a little pot and said, "I want you to look at this and smell it." And the first thing that popped out was like some neon green bud, which was really cool looking. And unfortunately, I'm not in studio today, so I can't smell it, but I already have. So I know that, yeah, I mean, it was definitely different than your normal dried and cured bud. It looks like everything I just said, the preservation there is true. So, well, to start off, I guess first, how'd you guys meet? How'd this get started? What are your backgrounds? I think we have a similar background in like products and marketing.
Yeah, we do. That's why I think we hit it off so well, because we definitely love marketing and new products and such. And well, Greg and I are partners in business and in love. So we've been together almost 11 years now.
Aww.
And Greg is a caregiver here in Michigan.
Very cool.
And we moved to Michigan so we could be legal and help patients the way we really wanted to. We knew the need was there. So we moved to Michigan, and Greg grows the most beautiful flower I have ever seen, but everybody says that of a grower, but I really think he does. And one day before harvest, I said, these flowers are so beautiful. Is there anything that we can do to take it right off the plant and smoke it tomorrow or now and not have it shrink? I hate seeing cured cannabis, especially when you are with it from growing it all the way to the curing. It is nothing like its former self on the plant.
For sure.
So we just started brainstorming a little bit. I said, could we throw it in our food dehydrator? And he's like, no, that's heat. Heat is the enemy to curing. You don't want it's too much heat and then dry it out. And he said, I did read in a book a long time ago that Ed Rosenthal had mentioned in his book that freeze-dried cannabis was some of the tastiest, best cannabis he'd ever had. And I said, well, shit, if Ed said that, well, there's got to be something to it.
Right.
And so we bit the bullet basically and invested in a freeze dryer.
Sure. I'm just going to stop. I assume most of my audience would know who Ed Rosenthal is, but just in case, he's one of the most legendary predominant growers in the space who literally wrote many of the books on cannabis. So if he gives his stamp of approval, that's a really good nod for something being worth checking out. So continue.
Yeah, no problem. So we invested in a smaller freeze dryer, and it didn't quite get it where we wanted it to be. That's one of the ones that people see on the market now, the Harvest Right. It's a food freeze dryer, and you couldn't quite dial it in, but we knew the potential was there. But to roll it out on a bigger scale and try it in a different way outside of the Harvest Right, we had to bite a bigger bullet and invest a lot of money in a commercial size freeze dryer. And I'm like, what if it doesn't really work? I guess I'm going to be hitting the flea markets and selling freeze-dried foods. But anyway, Greg worked relentlessly, night and day, on dialing it into that eureka moment. He's almost 7 feet tall, so to see this guy do a jig was pretty funny. But he dialed it in perfectly. We filed for a patent on it, pending all over the world right now, got our trademark, started hitting the road organically, going up to influencers, just no shame at all. Walked up to Danny Danko at a Cannabis Cup. Tapped him on the shoulder. I said, Mr. Danko, hey, I'd like to show you some of this Cryo Cure cannabis. And he was like, whoa, that seems interesting. And I ride the line of pesky and persistent. So I kind of kept seeing Danny around at different events and kept showing it to him. And finally, their eureka moment hit where he said, you know, you guys really have locked this in. And he did the greatest thing for us and introduced us to Ed Rosenthal himself. And Ed is now part of our company, and his
Oh,
wife,
cool.
Jane. And, but we just really started organically ourselves, getting it out like you saw with Stu, just showing friends, family, patients. And the word is spreading all over the world right now. So a couple trade shows and a lot of great things like your podcast. Thanks again.
Yeah, of
Really get
course.
the word out there.
That's awesome. That's really exciting to hear. Yeah. My background, I'm sure I'll tell it one day on this. I haven't yet, but it also involved going over to the High Times booth, and Rick Cusick Danny was at a lot of shows too, but Rick was the one I used to poke all the time and be like, check out my brownie mix, check out my brownie mix. Till eventually they reviewed it in the magazine, which was great. And yeah, I mean it's everyone over there.
Gotta
It's
be
just awesome.
shameless, right? You have to be.
You
If you have a new
too.
product or an idea, you have to tap those shoulders. You have to pick up the phone. Actually, people do have phones and they do make phone calls. It's not text, it's not emails. You gotta
Yeah.
show your passion. It's really hard to turn someone down if you see the passion in what they've put into it and how excited they are. It's not selling at that point. It's just telling, and people can tell that, you know?
Yeah, and it's also education too, because, a lot of times a product like mine or a product like yours, people don't exactly know what it is out the gate. So you have to get in the ears of people, sometimes multiple times, and explain, like, look, this is what it is. This is why it's better. How about X,
Right?
Y, and Z? Taste it, touch it, smell it, like, and then you prove to people slowly, you recruit them to your way of life.
Yeah, well, it didn't take, you know, you don't have to push people too hard. Can I hold up some Cryo Cure to show you this?
Absolutely,
Here,
please
please let me.
do.
Oh, here, yes. When we show people our cryo cured bud in a jar or on the stem like this is, everybody's first response is, I have got to try that. I've got to try that. And when they do, yes, it looks great. Yes, we cure it in under 24 hours. But the best part to me is the experience.
Yeah.
I've been self-medicating my whole life nearly, it seems, just microdosing, and it's really made a difference in my life. Cryo-cured cannabis, I can tell you, is light.
Ooh.
It's sparkly feeling. It's clean and smooth. No cough, no couch lock, no munchies. That's my favorite
Can you
part.
believe that that's outdoor
Yes,
from
that's
last
Really?
harvest?
Wow. So you guys, how
preserves
big
the purples.
how big of a
It'll-
grow do you guys have? Is it all outdoor?
No, we're allowed 72 plants. We're allowed. I have 5 patients, 12
Hmm.
plants per patient, and 12 plants for myself. We're allowed to have 72 plants total. So what we've always done is so we keep it steady, so our patients never go without. We keep it 36, 36. So that every 60 to 90 days, we're pulling down 32 plants.
Even through video here, that color is very beautiful. You could
This
tell
is
it.
some CBD Greg just
Yeah.
harvested.
That's actually some relic seeds. Shout out to Professor P. I know he just had surgery recently, but this is some of his genetics. It's an incredible CBD strain called Grapefruit Web.
Wonderful aroma. I wish this was smell-o-vision, darn it.
Yeah, smell-o-vision. If we had smell-o-vision, we wouldn't have to tell people about our product. They would just look at it, scratch it, sniff it, and be like, okay, yeah, that's the one. That's the
So
one.
so you sell so you don't sell any kind of commercial retail distribution, nothing like that. You just do
Just the equipment.
strictly just caregivers though. Well, yeah, obviously
Just
the
the
equipment.
equipment, our freeze-dry machines that we manufacture in Ohio, and another version we manufacture in China with one of the world's leading freeze-dry manufacturers in pharmaceutical areas. And that's all we do is we sell the equipment. Now we have a demo showroom here in Michigan where we'll do demonstrations for people that have been flying in from all over the world to see with their own eyes. Nobody can really believe it when they see it. They have to come in.
Turn the computer.
Oh, here, I'm gonna turn the computer, show you the
Yeah.
blue Betty as we call her.
We're actually in our showroom, so
Oh, look at
There
that.
she is. That's the Cryo Cure machine there, and we'll do a demo from cutting it down live all the way through to completion so people can see it with their own eyes and
And
get excited about it.
how many pounds at a time does that one you just showed me process?
that'll do probably close to 30 pounds. Or yeah, that one's 30 pounds. It's actually the shelving on it. This was our beta unit, so the shelving is further apart. We don't have as much square footage in the unit, so that one will do 30 pounds a run, and that runs every 12 hours.
So what's the cost of something now doing it this way between purchasing the initial machine, the electric, and whatever is needed to run it versus your traditional curing method?
Obviously, your major cost is just to purchase the machine. You know, a lot of people get sticker shock when they see these machines. These machines aren't cheap. They're
Yeah.
made of really expensive components. So, you know, like when you first go and start shopping for freeze dryers and you look at smaller units, you're like, oh, well, okay, that's actually really expensive for in-home house unit. Well, it only goes up from there. Um, we kind of found the perfect margin where everybody else was, where all the big manufacturers were at. We included our IP and we kind of just customized these machines for cannabis because no one was doing it.
Yeah, they were thin shelves, so your buds would be squished together when the trays were too close together. So we gave nice deep shelves for trim and big buds, and
A lot of it's in the pre-settings. You know, a lot of where our value comes in is the research that we've already done. This process, like she said, using a food freeze dryer is not going to work. It's going to over dry it, pull a lot of the flavor out, make it burn funny. It'll look beautiful, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we could fool you with the pictures, but you know, in the end, when it came down to the smokability and the final effect, it just wasn't there using a food freeze dryer.
you couldn't smell it at
Yeah.
all. It took out all the terpenes.
Right. And so, like you said, what we figured out by using this equipment is a 12-hour process to skip a 1 week to 10 day process of hanging without having any shrinkage of the flower.
So, as far as making your money back, is that kind of what it is because you could produce volume more quickly, or is
Absolutely.
it are you
Absolutely.
also charging more for the flower to the consumer?
Absolutely.
Well, you're obviously for a time being, while you know there is not too many people doing this, not too many people have this machinery right now. So
Mhm.
obviously, the people who get the machines and this technology first are going to be the ones to benefit from it because obviously supply and demand. You know, there's not too much of it, and there's a big demand. You'd be able to raise the price of it. That will help, but a lot of it comes down to when you look at these large cultivations, the amount of money they spend to control temperatures and humidity in these giant rooms, especially in the summertime or in the humid areas or humid areas of the United States. The expense, it's incredibly expensive.
And the real estate.
Yeah, the real estate. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Our friends in Boston attest to that.
yeah, you can't imagine how much real estate you need to dry down. You need almost as much room as you do to grow it as to dry it.
Properly.
So
Okay. Yeah. So there's savings in multiple areas. It's not just in time that you're saving.
right,
There's literal.
right.
Okay.
And then if you use it, as a tool, in places which are vertically integrated that have their own processing on location. I mean, this started out as an extraction tool. So there's so many different areas on the back end of processing that this will benefit you, as to removing the moisture before extraction, which will increase your yields in your extraction, as well as, you know, a lot of hemp farmers don't realize, and I preach this to everyone that I talk to that grows hemp, those cannabinoids are not the most valuable part of your hemp. The terpenes that are on that cannabis hemp is the most valuable part. You know, in a market where everyone is flavoring their oils to try to be into a, let's say, an entourage effect, they pay big dollars for these cannabis derived terpenes.
Yeah.
Whether they're derived from hemp or whether they're derived from indoor flower in California, it doesn't really matter. They taste the same.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something you can look at. So, you know, at $50 to $70 a milliliter and being able to pull off a large amount before you extract it via ethanol,
Yeah.
it's a game changer.
You could pay off your machine just in your terpene extraction, and that's a setting on the machine. You have your smokable flower setting, which retains your terpenes.
Yeah.
And then we have a setting that'll remove all of the terpenes, and collect those for you. So there's multiple settings depending on.
So you're saying, as opposed to a traditional extraction where you would maybe do a terpene run, and then do a secondary run, you could remove the terpenes with the cryo machine and not have to do that in your extraction equipment.
That's correct.
Right.
And
that's very cool.
And you'll get more monoterpenes. You see, most of your traditional terpene runs, like through CO2 machines, or if you're just doing one through crude oil through a short path. There's no real easy way to extract terpenes at the moment. This is one of the easiest ways while you dry and it does it while you dry your cannabis. So most of these guys that do, like when I say the hemp extraction, this benefits the hemp harvester more because they're the ones that are most likely going to take all of that and put it in ethanol. And once you put it in ethanol for extraction in the flower, you basically lose the terpene, or they're not going back trying to refine that terpene out of there. So this is
that's the problem with ethanol, is the polarity. It's a little too good at what it does, so it just kind of sucks everything out. But so, and then now if you were to remove the terpenes on the first pass, would that product that was left be good for extraction for an edible that maybe where you don't want flavors, so you've already had it removed?
That's exactly what it's for. Yes. That's exactly what it's for. Or it's also, those terpenes are for edibles, like for instance, Mary Palmer, shout out to Stenny and Lenny, they use cannabis derived terpenes in their drinks.
They do.
Yeah,
Mary Palmer lemonade iced tea. Yeah, that's part of the beauty of the way it tastes. You could taste the terpenes in that.
Sure. And something like a iced tea, if you have limonene, obviously lemon iced tea, and I talk about that on some cooking things I've done where you're actually pairing profiles, and there's chefs who do amazing things with that, multiple course meals and wine pairings, because wines have terpenes in them. So I love that side of it. That's where I can kind of nerd out, is the extraction side. My knowledge on growing is pretty limited. But so one thing you said to me that I thought was interesting is that it gets rid of degradation to your delta 9 to your CBN and avoids the couch lock. But so in a patient that maybe is terminal, someone who is looking for that kind of, I know it's more than just indica sativa, you have the whole entourage effect, but that heavy type of indica couch lock. So is this product not good for that then? And then would you want a more traditional method?
And that's not necessarily true.
Okay.
I think that we're all different. So like the whole indica hybrid sativa thing.
I know.
Okay. We can have a whole nother episode just talking about that.
For sure. And I probably will at some point. But what I mean is the stereotypical, like there's these guys who used to sell a shop at shows I went to called Couch Lock, and it had like mangosteen. So for the people who want that kind of heavy, what would traditionally be called an indica feel. Let's just go with that.
What I love? I love to tell this to people, and people are blown away by this. Okay. You like heavy indica? Well, take your sack, put it in your glove box on a 90-degree day in your car, and there's your indica. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. For sure.
That's easy. Indica is the easiest. If you want that down effect, that's one of the easiest effects to get out of any cannabis. Because once it's heated, it turns to CBN or delta 9, which are degraded forms of THCA, and there goes your couch lock. But as for like the sativa, the up feeling, that's all related to terpene. That has absolutely nothing to do with the cannabinoid.
And a lot of it, Greg, you can explain it better. There's terpenes that we've preserved that we didn't even know we had on our traditional cured.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those burn off naturally when you air hang.
There's those what you smell when you walk into a dry room are monoterpenes. They're a lot lighter than your regular terpenes that you and I are talking about, like the limonene and those ones that are very strong that stick out, that will always be there present. But there's like really crazy monoterpenes that boil off at very light temperatures. So when you're taking the plant and putting it straight into the machine for terpene extraction, you're getting those monoterpenes that you normally wouldn't have in any other terpene extraction, which gives you more of a unique terpene profile. Same way as when it's drying and those terpenes are trapped in the flower, it gives you different expressions of the flower that you normally wouldn't see. So let's say if you really like Jedi, Kush, Skywalker, or whatever, one of those Star Wars strains or anything, that you're going to taste something different in that flower that you never tasted before. Whether you like it, whether you don't,
I've never met any I didn't like.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more flavor profile present in these flowers.
So I don't know if this parallels. It just popped in my head. So if you get like an apple, have you had like dehydrated apples and freeze dried apples? They're two entirely different products. One has a lot more moisture, but neither of them taste exactly the same as a fresh apple. So they've both lost something in the process. Like I think we're used to what a typical dehydrated cannabis flower tastes, smells like. Is there any kind of loss or change from, like, it has to change in some way. So what changes differently? You said you don't lose cannabinoids,
Well,
terpenes.
okay, it doesn't. The reason it doesn't change for the simple fact that the cellular structure doesn't shrink. There's no degradation. There's no shrinking down. You're not having, let's say, that normal reaction of the breakdown of chlorophyll into sugars onto the surface of the plant. So you're not experiencing the decay in the flower. So there's more of what we like to call like a live resin flower.
Okay. Greg coined live resin flower for Cryo Cure. That's what he loves to call it too.
And that's if anybody who understands extractions and the difference between shatter and live resin.
Yeah. So for an extraction artist, this would be something amazing to work with, because they would basically have an artist with more colors on their palette.
Absolutely, you have way more ways to refine it. You're going to get, for instance, for people who make ice water hash, especially Frenchy Cannoli was the one who brought this up to us, that when you look at the flower for harvesting of hash, you're predicting what that trichome is going to be like in a week from now. So once the plant, it might be, the best way to say, might be 80% milky, 20% red, and you want it to be, all the way a little bit red, depending upon the effect that you're looking for. So this just takes the guessing out of that. Whatever you look on the plant and you see, that's what you're going to get gland-wise. So you're not going to have any degradation or shrinking of that trichome head. You will have more consistent, even quality on your pool. So for instance, when you're at your 90 to 140, you're going to get more consistent and not as much fall through on your bags, because the heads are still perfectly intact.
So how does this relate to volume and weight for someone purchasing, say, an eighth or a quarter? Are they getting more product, less, the same?
More. It's going to appear
the same
more.
Weight, but it's lot more.
It's going to appear more to the customer because it didn't shrink.
Okay.
Now, if it would have shrunk, it would have been the same amount of flour, because we target a final moisture content of 8 to 12% moisture content. That's kind of like our area where we want to be at.
So like a 1 gram pre-roll, you know what a 1 gram pre-roll looks like from a dispensary. Ours look like cigars at 1 gram. I mean, they roll a lot bigger. It's visually bigger. It breaks up really nice too. You don't need a grinder per se. You can use one, but you don't really need one. And it's just a lot different than a traditional cure in a lot of different ways.
So if you were to be an unscrupulous retailer, you could potentially roll something smaller, say it's 1 gram, and fool people.
Oh yeah, but most of the people that we're working with that getting ready to launch this at dispensaries, they're using it to set them apart. And
of course, yeah.
Bigger pre-rolls, it's all again in the visual appeal for sure.
So are there any extractors who are doing this to set themselves apart, in the sense that if you had said, made with cryogenically frozen or Cryo Cure cannabis, is that something they would want to advertise to set themselves apart, or is that something they would hold back to kind of be like, that's our secret sauce, we don't want to tell people?
There are people using this kind of technology for their rosin and their back end. A lot of people that are using it for their dry sift. So yeah, they're
using the small harvest rates mostly, and like a lot of them in line. And some are using larger food grade ones, but not that many that we know of so far. But we encourage people to say that it's cryo cured, because we're putting a lot into building the brand. It's not freeze-dried cannabis. So we don't want people to think if it went through our machine, it's just freeze-dried. It's been cryo cured.
Yeah.
We take it so serious that with the people we train to run our machine, we call them cryo curators, because they take a sense of pride in running that machine at the facility. They're super excited about it. They feel really unique in the fact that their facility, they're the man or woman that gets to be in charge of that machine. And it's just like Intel inside, I guess you could say.
Cool.
You don't just buy a computer and not look for the intel inside. You might not know exactly what it is, but when you see it has intel inside, you know it's good. And that's what we hope to achieve with Cryo Cure, so consumers know that there's a consistency. So if you buy some cannabis in one state and you go to the other and you see our certified Cryo Cure symbol on there, well, then you know it's going to be great quality and consistent.
So you said it's not freeze dried. So you guys told me this cool story about opening and closing the freezer. I'd love if you tell that. But and you know, just the DIY spirit behind it, which is a lot of what myself and Blazin Bakery and a lot of people in this space, how they start out is they have an idea, it comes organically from some kind of story like that, and then they just put in the, you know, the sweat and the time to figure it out. And then you bring out, I saw on your website you have a vapor chemist, which I thought was a pretty cool title, but I love
yes,
the cryo curator. That's all pretty awesome. But if you could just tell me like the origin story to how you got where you are and how it's different than freeze drying.
Love to.
Yeah,
you tell the story, Greg.
Right, just like she said, we started out with a food grade freeze dryer. Putting it in there, we ruined a lot of cannabis to figure out that, okay, this isn't going to work. You know, stepping it up to more of a scientific grade, we were able to get close. However, the unit that we were working with just wasn't efficient, let's say, you know, to be able to do 4 ounces. It did 4 ounces okay, and it got close to where we needed, but was this going to work at scale? No, this was, you know, we have to find that out. So like Tracee said, biting the bullet, we got a bigger unit. We were able to load it up with quite a bit of material, ran a couple runs, got even closer. You know, we've ruined a lot of cannabis, trust me.
It was painful.
It was a very painful process, you know, we put bad taste in some people's mouths ahead of time just because, you know, like, oh, here, try this.
The guinea pigs.
You're the guinea pigs. And they're like, oh, no, man, no,
that's
I don't know, this isn't cool. I was like, well, all right. You know, so just knowing what I know from just doing extractions, knowing the temperature and tolerances of the plant and being familiar with the plant, kind of basing it around that knowledge, doing some research on the extraction of chlorophyll, just came up with took a couple different shots and got real close to where we are now. And you know, it's been a process dialing it in, but we got it pretty much dialed in to where you can put any strain in at the same time and have a differentiation of about 1 to 2% moisture content with the
Very
flower.
cool.
Yeah. And then it's mostly what Greg dialed in was time, temperature, and pressure. That's pretty much what it came down to. Just the right combos on all those 3 areas, what gave him that moment.
Yeah, it is definitely a tricky thing. You know, to be able to preserve the terpenes in the flower and to be able to preserve the shape and the size of the trichome head, those are 2 completely different animals. So they have to work pretty much side by side along with each other while the process is going on.
Yeah, it's negative pressure in that chamber. It's like outer space. It's volatile. It's like it's nothing in there, you know. So it's he really did a great job getting that dialed in. And if you look at we're very happy about this. But a lot of feedback we're getting on our Instagram account has been really super positive, and almost to where if someone comes on and says, no way, that's got to taste like shit. Our fans come in and rush in and protect us now, right. And we love that. Thank you.
What's amazing is that there are a lot of snake oil people in this business. There's a lot of people that just have an idea, put it together, and don't test it, and then just run right out there to sell it. Well, we didn't just come out here. We went to people like Danny Danko, Ed Rosenthal, Rick Naya. We went to these people first and asked them what they thought. When they were just blown away, we were like, okay, at this point, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. I've already, we've what we wanted, that was the approval. Those people, their opinions mattered the most to me.
For sure.
So,
we get fan mail, we get.
Of course, there'll be somebody, there's a lot of people that don't like change. And I think that sometimes that scares people or creates a hate or a fear of something, but there's nothing to be afraid of. This is just what we're trying to do is create better quality smoke for consumers, for people. I mean, even the grower deserves. If you grow beautiful flower, you deserve to have people see your flower or consume your medicine
At its best.
at its
They-
best.
For some, it makes me look like I want to eat it. Like it's either like,
Oh, you have
I
no
don't
idea.
know.
I want to eat it so bad. You should smell this zone right here. It's like a
Yeah.
turkey dust in
That's
my
why
face.
it's in front of her.
I
If
think
it's in
Oh.
front of me, I'd already consumed
Yeah,
it.
he'd already be starting to roll it and get it ready.
it looks really cool.
But I am looking forward to imbibing with you someday on it. I think you'd really enjoy it, Tara. Well, you did try a little bit of what Stu had, but maybe
Well,
some
I only got to smell it. We were in the middle of a show, so
Oh,
but it did smell good. I will say that. But yeah, so you guys are out in Michigan. Do you travel around doing shows a lot, kind of on the cannabis
not that
circuit? Or,
many. Just a couple that we've done so far. Right now, the word of mouth is keeping us pretty busy. Right now, one of our biggest concerns is dancing at too many weddings with one backside. You know, we've got a lot of interest from a lot of companies worldwide, and we just want to make sure we keep up with the production in a way that we don't let anybody down. So right now,
Aw,
we're
cool.
busy for quite a while.
So how many states are you in? Do you know?
Well, we'll be going into 10 to 12 and within the next couple of months.
Fabulous. And
A lot of
Michigan,
love on the East Coast, though. We love the East Coast. Our friends
yeah.
out in Boston and New York, Jersey. We do the Harvest Cup out there. That was our first show we ever debuted at.
Oh,
And
very cool.
That's where we met Stu, and that's where we met a
yes,
lot of the people that we still are in communication with, you know, and we hopefully, once this virus thing all passes and the show circuit gets back
yeah,
up, there are definitely shows that we do go to. Generally, it's just to visit, you know, just to display. It's kind of a waste of our time because,
Hmm.
you know, literally, you know, people that important people have heard about us and
they're
they
finding
they
us.
they know about us and they know where to find us.
Very cool.
That's
And I think you could also perhaps maybe doing well in the East Coast market because it's a little bit different of an environment here because so many of our licenses are limited. You know, we have a much smaller patient population, less adult use, less dispensaries. So I think the people who have it, that I mean, we charge a lot more for it out here, unfortunately. So you do have the ability to do some different things, and they're trying to make names for themselves early because we're still very much planting flags where in places like California and Colorado, Oregon, you see such a saturation in the market. A lot of times at this point, it's a race to the bottom. So they really can't be adding additional production costs, which is unfortunate because then obviously quality suffers. But I mean, do you think that plays into any reasoning why the East Coast could be?
Well, no, because I told Greg when we started, I said, you know, I'm going to be a little worried about the West Coast. And I don't want to use the word snobby because that's not quite it, but they've been at it a really long time and they're very set in their ways and they've got deep connections within their own communities. And we're like, it's going to be a tough market to break into.
Hmm.
After the East Coast, the West Coast is just as loving right now. That's going to be where a lot of our machines will be. Our bigger machines will be heading out to California, Colorado. They open their arms up to what we're doing with no problem at all. I'd like to think it's probably though because Ed introduced us to a lot of
Ah,
those people. So, but
uh,
because of that, they embrace us very well, and they're really loving Cryo Cure as well.
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, if you could get into those markets, they have. I mean, just for some statistics, the state of New Jersey has a population of 9 million people, and we have 7 dispensaries.
Oh,
And yeah, it's a really bad ratio. And then
That sounds like
Colorado,
a monopoly. That sounds like what Ohio was trying to do.
yeah.
yeah,
Ohio was trying to do 12, but they didn't, you know. Yeah.
No, but
no,
there's still kind of a monopoly because it's still so limited. I think it was at like 14,
yeah.
16 licenses. It'll change.
It's
Hang in
new.
there, everybody. It'll change. I never
I
thought I'd be
know.
sitting here with weed in front of me and
Ah,
having a great time with you, you know, during a
thanks.
pandemic. I mean,
I
you just
know, right?
one day.
Yeah. I hope people listening to this in the future are having a lot better day than I'm sure we are. I haven't seen sunlight except to my mailbox in about 3 weeks. So,
I know it's so strange, but
yeah.
I like you know I kind of like it in a sense that my to-do list is there and I'm checking it off a little bit every day, but I'm not trying to get it done too fast because my fear is running out of stuff to do. So,
Yeah.
it,
I have no fear of that. I can't, I've realized I will never have enough time because if I don't have enough time during the apocalypse, it's just not going to happen.
that's a
But,
good way to look
but
at
I
it.
think it's because I'll fill my time. Like I was doing only in studio podcasts because I just love the energy of sitting across from you, like looking, smelling, touching your plant, looking you in the eye. But when you can't have that, I said, well, this does open up a much broader audience. So in a way, it's like kind of gifted me with, now I'm talking to people all over America. And, Michigan's such an interesting place to me because your medical program, along with California, was one of the first to jump into the hundred thousands of the patient population,
Yes.
light years before other people. It's why they had cups out there. And, yeah, so you were so poised to have a vibrant adult use market, or someone like Jersey, who has a very small medical market, it's going to be a shock to the system when it comes. So I think Michigan's an example of some place that is kind of lying under the radar. They don't get much attention as, Colorado, California, but you guys are doing good stuff out there. So
It seems to be a really good program. We've just, they started licensing micro dispensaries and grows. They seem to have opened it up a lot more to regular people. And of course, everyone in Michigan is allowed 12 plants to grow.
mhm.
So it's just, and the state hasn't fallen apart. There's not chaos everywhere. There's not, it's not like a hash bash every day. It's
No.
wonderful. Everybody just is responsible. Everyone seems to follow the regulations. It's not chaotic here at all. We're very blessed.
Heck, the day they legalized hemp, I think we drove down the road and saw some guy. He didn't hesitate. He had like 24 hemp plants in his front yard. Right out there.
And it looks just like
This is
cannabis.
just like, I was like,
wait.
holy shit, is that? Yep,
That's
that was it.
awesome.
Yeah,
But I mean, the truth of the matter is, I don't care how good or poorly your state implements any level of legalization, that just doesn't happen where there's just stoner zombies roaming the streets with bongs, and it just
No.
doesn't happen. This fear is so unfounded that it's going to change your neighborhood, your state, anything. All it does is it takes the people who are already doing it, and it doesn't make them criminals anymore. And it
Right.
creates a new thriving industry, puts new tax money into the state. You see improvements, roads and schools, like nothing. Opioid use goes down, underage use goes down, crime goes down. Everyone's idea of what is going to be, it's almost the opposite, no matter how you implement. But
That's
Agree.
right.
I agree.
I can
yeah,
see why you're a good advocate.
I try.
Change my mind.
Changed my mind.
Well, I'm afraid I'm preaching to the choir, but hopefully
Oh, well,
hopefully I,
anybody that does the advocacy thing, I admire so much.
yeah.
People like you, and especially our dear friend Rick Naya, who are on the front lines publicly talking about cannabis and why it should be legal and its benefits. I still carry a little bit of that shame blanket around because I didn't have the luxury of sharing my love of the plant with people that I worked with or the field I was in. So the fact that you guys do that so shamelessly, I think it's wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That means a lot. It's a lot easier than it used to be. I could tell you I've been escorted out of banks. I've lost jobs. I've made my mother cry when she thought I was
I
going to
made
go in
my
jail.
cry too. I know.
So, it's but now you have respect and admiration, and people ask you questions and care about what you say. So that's a relatively new phenomenon for me in the past couple of years. So it's pretty,
Everybody has questions, and it's so great being able to talk about it.
yeah.
Without a doubt. If we ever get to go to a cocktail party again, we used to be the most popular people at a cocktail party, but I wouldn't know what
You'll
that's
have to
like.
shut me up. I just have to tell myself, I have to pull myself up, like
Yes.
you're talking too much. Shut
Yeah.
up.
There's a point where I sometimes will lie and just say I'm a graphic designer if I'm all cannabis out for a day, where I'm like, I can't talk about it anymore. But rarely. Normally I use any platform I can get to try to change minds and affect change. But cool. So let's see. I took some notes. What else did we want to talk? So
Well, with today's show, people want to know how long it lasts, because freeze-dried foods and such have a reputation for lasting a long time.
yeah.
We have here a strain or a cultivar that Greg created called Dirty Dreads. And it is, this was bottled up of 2018 in November. Let's see if you can see that. Is that killing you with the light?
Wow.
They turn that off. This is well over a year old.
Very cool. I'm gonna pretend to stick my nose in the jar. Hold on.
There you go.
No,
it's
very cool.
It really preserves it great too. I had that sitting there. I wanted to make sure everybody got to see too, because that's a big common question was how long does it last? So a long time.
It lasts a lot longer than it. If it takes too long to smoke it, you got too much cannabis.
Everybody that has it
I don't know
lasts more than a
anybody
year.
that's lasted We save it for a year just because
For
people
research.
want to
Wow.
know. But it's like, wait, no way,
Well,
no way.
that that plays into I because of our limited patient population, I have heard of dispensaries or well, here we're vertically integrated, so but them producing flour and then not being able to sell it because there's backups at the lab. We only have police labs for testing, and by the time it gets to the public, it's already degraded and they end up throwing product away.
Yeah.
So I assume something like that, having a more stable shelf life, which with products like edibles, you could have a year, 2 year shelf life with the correct, even natural preservatives. So that's pretty exciting. And also things like mold and other things that happen in traditional processes, you probably avoid, right?
Yep, absolutely. Definitely great mold mitigation. If there's mold or bud rot going on, you put it in the freeze dryer
If
and,
here's the beautiful thing, I actually just got a text from a friend.
oh, that's what the text was going
Yeah,
off on.
he had a he's a tent. He grows in tents, and one of his fans went out and got some powdery mildew. So he was like, "Hey, I don't know if you want to do this, or Brad, you want me to bring this over to your place?" I'm like, "Listen, freeze it, bring it over. I need a test. We need to test and see what happens, what this does for microbial." Well, it was covered with powdery mildew. It passed the microbials.
Wow.
It passed, but it failed the visual inspection.
Hmm.
So because he still had the residue was still on it. Now, if that would have been dipped in like hydrogen peroxide solution ahead of time, and then we would have,
Oh,
if yeah, we would have dipped it in the hydrogen peroxide solution and then brought it here and then did it in the machine, it would have passed. It would have been, he would have been able to salvage his product and have clean material for
hmm.
a consumer.
Interesting. But
Yep.
That's crazy. We were just talking about that.
huh, very interesting. And but is there any harm to doing that to basically patch up a problemed plant? No.
No, not
Or
at
if
all.
you don't put it in the hydrogen peroxide, a lot of times it's spotty, so you can cut that area out so you don't see it anymore.
Well, that's for instance, bud rot. Bud rot continues to spread after you take the plant down. It will continue to spread, but if it's done in the cryo cure, it will stop it in its tracks, and you can just cut the rotted spot out of the flower. In the grand scheme of things, when you think of like, hey, you guys like apple producers, they get an apple that's not even the right shape, it just gets thrown away, right?
Yeah.
Well, these guys nowadays, you'd think that that would be the case. Okay, you get a little mildew, you just throw it away. Well, they have a lot of money. These guys
Yeah.
printing money.
They
That's
calculated they throw away. One of our clients
like
said they
3%.
like millions of dollars it adds up to. You throw
Wow.
this one away, this one away, or this crop away because it's infected.
There's a
That
safe
adds
way.
up.
There's a safe way to mitigate. I mean, obviously, if you're not using pesticides is what I would say is that's where I would draw the line. But microbial stuff that happens.
Yeah.
That happens. I mean, honestly, if you're traditionally curing and you're not doing it right, and there's somebody who doesn't, forgets to empty the dehumidifier, or a fan goes out and he doesn't catch it, well, that cannabis might fail microbials. So
Hmm.
there's plenty of instances where you could do a great job for 18 weeks, and that last week of hanging or drying could ruin that 18 weeks worth of work
Yeah.
all in the last week. So having a machine like this and being able to put out consistency and be able to actually speed up your process and streamline your back end process, take the guesswork out of it, is very valuable.
That's awesome.
Very cool. That's awesome. So I'm gonna usually I prep a question where you can either answer the first time you smoked weed, or I pick a different first time and I make you fess up to that as the other. But I have a feeling you guys won't have a problem with the first question, which is good because I forgot to think of the second one. So
I
you
was
got
4 years old. I was right around the corner from the projects.
that would have been one of the best ones.
No,
Um,
I was actually the first time I had ever smoked cannabis. I was working at a haunted house when I was 15 years old, and my buddy had snuck some in, and we kind of in between like the rotations, we ended up smoking, and that was pretty hysterical. You know, people say they don't get high the first time I got high.
That is all right. You're speaking to my other passion, which is horror. I'm a huge horror nerd. So I've worked haunted experiences as well. I've emceed 72 shows one October. So I absolutely love that. What were you doing in the haunted house?
Shoot, my aunt she owned the haunted house and haunted hayride, so I did like everything. My favorite, I was what they called was a raker. So it was like, so if you, the whole idea was you're on the hayride, you're looking at the opposite side, you're looking at the scene, whatever the scene was you're driving by, and I'm dressed in all black with a milk jug full of rocks, and I come across the other side, scream, make you jump. That was my job. So I had the best job. I actually got the most scares out of anybody. So
That's fat. That's kind of the same thing. The guy with the chainsaw with no thingy on it, whatever
yeah,
the
yeah,
Yeah.
blade. Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
surprised how loud a milk jug and some rocks could and make people jump.
Sure. So then were you high for the rest of the haunted experience? Or
Yeah,
just
I
that?
actually got
Yeah.
my foot run over by the tractor.
Oh,
My foot got stuck in the mud and I couldn't move it quick enough, and my foot got run over by the tractor.
You probably didn't feel it then.
Yeah, I didn't feel it.
well, it's
Definitely.
not known for great reaction time, but you probably felt it less. So maybe it's a zero
I,
net.
I think I was like, oh no, it's getting run over. Oh my God, it's going to be broken up. I didn't feel anything.
All right. All right. So Tracee, your turn. Let's
Oh, it's my turn.
tell a tale.
All right. So the question was, when was the first time I imbibed, right?
Yes.
Okay. The first time I imbibed was in high school with my best friend. Uh, should I say his name? It'd kill me. Okay. My best friend is a guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's what?
Snitches get stitches. he
Snitches
says.
get
Oh.
So I won't say his name because he's not as open about it as I am. But anybody that knows me can probably figure out who it was. But we had a great summer. It was my first time imbibing, but I didn't really get like super high. What I did feel was that I felt different in a better sense. And noticed that I just was medicating after that on a small scale, like microdosing, just to feel good and normal, not super high. I don't think I could ever say that I've been like what Greg likes to describe as high school high. Like, I've never really achieved that feeling. I think part of me has always been ready for cannabis to medicate with and just make me feel my normal and my even. So
Wow.
I'm not a big fan. No, with all due respect, I'm not a big edibles person. Edibles don't agree with me too well. I get hangovers from them and fall asleep pretty quick. So, but I
Uh,
love the way it tastes. I love the taste of cannabis without a doubt.
That's cool. That was going to be my follow-up question is for someone who says like, "Oh, I've never been high school high from cannabis." I'm going to be like, everyone has an edible story where you ate one, nothing happened. You ate a second and it sideswiped you and you woke up 2 days later and,
I just fall asleep and it's a wicked hangover. I'm not. I don't. It's just a
That's the
weird
same
feeling.
thing as me. I have a buddy who makes them like super strong, and I ate one day. I fell asleep, and then when I woke up, it was like coming out of surgery. You know
Yeah.
that feeling when you can't move, you feel like you're like glued to the couch. Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
what I was looking for. So I just tend to stay away from edibles.
See, so this is what I hate the people who and I obviously home dosing if it's homemade is very hard. So I don't blame the home chef, but the people who, purposefully try to like kill people with their
Oh,
edibles,
yeah.
the problem is every time someone has a bad experience, I lose a potential customer because people say, "Oh my God, edibles, I saw the face of the devil." So I mean, that's why dosing and labeling and start low and go slow are so important because it could really be almost like how you're talking about micro dosing, like just a very small background, like, oh, my kitchen light sparkled a little. Life seems a little less gray today. It
Yeah.
could just it can be that, but it has to be dosed properly. And I do encourage them you give you another chance if you're, from a
Oh, I've done it a
good
little bit.
regulated source. Good.
Yeah. Well, hey, you should come to Michigan and play in our kitchen here with our Cryo Cure machine. Maybe we could do some
Oh,
stuff together. Cryo
I
Cure.
would love
I haven't
that.
been down that road yet with our machine. We're so busy with flour and processing and such that I've not done the edibles route yet. So maybe you can come play in our kitchen.
Dude, that would be awesome. Where are you guys in Michigan? What town?
Oh, the lower part. Oh yeah, Greg will show you on the glove.
But this here, look,
Right
Lower
there.
part.
Okay.
We learned that 5 years ago when we came up here. What part do you guys, where you guys live at? People would just hold up their hand and be like, yeah.
I live there.
Over there.
Oh,
That's too far. Too far away.
I'm exit 9. That's what we do in Jersey. What exit?
So I can't wait to show you one of the food items we did try is gummy bears freeze dried. What a trip those are.
Ooh.
They turn out like crunchy Cheetos when you freeze dry them, and they're not slimy or gooey, so the shelf life on them is incredible. And they poof up and they get crunchy, and when you bite it, it crunches, but then it turns back into a gummy bear in your mouth.
What?
So delicious. So I definitely want to make some of those with you when you come visit.
Oh my God, I have to try that. Or I've not been to Michigan. I haven't been to all 50 states, and that's one of the ones that's still on my to-do list. So freeze-dried gummy bears may have just got me there. That sounds
Yeah,
awesome.
or we can try some freeze-dried ice cream dipped in medicated chocolate too.
Is that like the astronaut ice cream you used to get at the
It
museums
is.
in elementary school? I used to love
Yes.
that stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
There's just so many things you can do in it. It's like unlimited food-wise, herbs, fruits, vegetables, sweet, salty, savory. I mean, you name it, it can be put in a freeze dryer. Someone said you could even do milk, right?
You could do your dead animal too.
Oh, God. Bring your dead animal. Yes, they use them in
Well,
taxidermy.
bring your pet down.
No.
No.
It only takes a year. It only takes a year to freeze dry your animal.
I have a little 3-pound chihuahua. There'd hardly be any meat on him. It would be so sad.
I know.
He'd fit though very easily. Right on the shelf.
It's so weird. Why? It's so weird. People do it. So
They do.
They really do freeze dry their after they die, and they like mount it like.
I have a buddy who had a pet monkey that
freeze dried.
freeze dried the monkey. It's in a glass box.
Like
in
in
his
its
room.
typical pose. It's creepy. I've seen freeze dried pets. It's just nothing short of just creepy. That's it.
So how is that different than taxidermy?
It is same thing.
It's a form of
It's
taxidermy.
a form of taxidermy.
Oh, they're freeze dried. Oh.
Well, not all taxidermy.
No.
I'm not a taxidermy professional. This is definitely not what I do, but yeah,
it's a form of taxidermy.
It's a form of it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I'd
Can-
rather.
Can things that are freeze dried shatter? Because like when people like, what's the baseball player who had his head cryogenically frozen?
It was.
Yeah, didn't his head crack because it was frozen?
Oh no, I didn't hear that one.
I did. I think his children were fighting over who had like custody, not custody, but like the inheritance.
Which half of the head
So
do
they
you
just
get?
Yeah, and then it split, so maybe they both own half
I know
now.
Walt Disney.
Him too. But I honestly, I'm not ruling out being frozen though, because I think it'd be pretty cool to be like reanimated Futurama style and put on a droid body. I don't know.
Tracee,
Don't worry.
Tracee says once she's gone,
clone
she's
you.
gone.
No,
It's dust in the wind.
they'll be cloned. Oh gosh, how did we do this so badly?
I don't know. I love it though. It can't just all be cannabis all the time. You gotta talk about frozen puppies sometime. All right, guys. Tell people where they could find you, where they could get your machines, find you on social, all that good stuff.
Our website is cryocurecannabis.com.
No.
Or I'm sorry, our Instagram.
No.
Sorry. I digress.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You can find us at www.cryocure.com.
Yes.
Our Instagram is Cryo Cure Cannabis, and that's it. That's the best. That's where we usually post most of our stuff.
We have a lot of great videos and photos on Instagram. Be sure to check that out. And a lot of the favorable comments from people too. And Greg and I don't work traditional hours, so give us a call if you have questions on a machine for your facility or just a general consumer question. We're just that basic. We'll talk to anybody.
That's awesome. That's good. Putting a face to a company is huge. And I think you guys are doing some great work out there. Please keep it up. Keep in touch. Anyone I can recommend. I'm happy to, do an introduction your way. So, yeah, and please stay safe. These are crazy times we're having right now. So
Stay safe, everyone. Yes. And thanks for including us, and I do hope to see you soon.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm just going to thank the listeners for, checking out Trailblazin. Please, if you have a chance, rate, review, subscribe. That really helps us get the word out there. We have new episodes coming out every week. If you want to follow me on social media, it's Blazin Bakery on Instagram and Twitter, The Blazin Bakery on Facebook, and you can find me as Tara Misu on LinkedIn, if you want to connect with that. I am launching, I'm very excited about Blazin Barkery. It's our CBD pet line coming out this week. My little baby Diablo has his own Insta now, so you can follow him at Blazin Barkery if you like. And you can always check out my products, everything we're doing right back there, blazinbakery.com. My name is Tara Misu. Thank you guys so much, and keep on trailblazing.